Storytime about my weird cellmate. So a little background information, I was 17 years old and a junior in high school. Yes, I was 17 and I was being charged as an adult, so I was in with a bunch of women. Well, one night after dinner, my cellmates and I are watching true crime shows, because that's what you do when you're in jail, watch true crime and CSI and all that shit. Anyway, so we're watching our shows and we see a new girl come in. She's got her blanket packed and we're all being warm and welcoming. And immediately, all of us could sense that something was off with this chick. Immediately, she starts going off about how she has a problem with the TV show we're watching. She did not like the fact that we were watching crime shows. She was like, oh my gosh, you guys really need to turn this off like right now. Low-key thought I was gonna see her on there or some shit. But yeah, she was just being super paranoid and we're sitting there like, girl, we have 10 channels. 7 of them are going to be true crime and 2 of them are the news. Oh, and the other channel was black and white movies and nobody wanted to watch that shit. So then I asked her if she unalived someone, life for part 2. Part 2 about my weird cellmate. So like I said, I asked her if she unalived someone before, because only somebody who unalived somebody would be triggered over us watching true crime, but she completely ignores me. So the first night, something happened with this girl. It was low-key, very, very weird. Me and my other cellmates were like, this girl's weird as hell. Why is she here? And then the next day was the icing on the cake. So it was cleaning day and we're all cleaning our stuff. And this girl just starts cleaning the weirdest things, like the inside of trash cans and shit that didn't need to be cleaned. And then it started getting creepy. Not weird, creepy. She put a paper towel over the drains because the voices were too loud. And then she would walk around the pod talking about death and carnage. And if you don't know what carnage means, it pretty much just means unaliving a lot of people. So this was super bad vibes, obviously. Now when you're in jail, of course people are going to ask what you're doing time for. And if you don't say, you're going to come off as sketchy. So we're asking this girl, hey, what are you in for? And she would not give us a straight answer. Well, while she was at a visit, we went through her things, like for part 3. Part 3 about my weird cellmate. So like I said, we asked her what she was in for and she didn't answer, so we found that weird as heck. So then she went for a visit and we searched through her stuff and found her paperwork. We found out that she was in because she attempted to unalive her husband, in which he got a restraining order. So at this point, we're like, this is weird as hell and she needs to go. Like, she gotta go. So now the entire pod comes together and every single one of us wrote a letter pleading the staff to get this crazy you-know-what out of our pod. We all folded them up into little paper kites and we sent them to the guards. We were ringing the doorbell like crazy and we told them what happened and no questions asked, she was gone.
Remember this client who got screwed over by her ex? Well, she came back for an appointment with more stories. After getting somewhat back on her feet, she decided to take a much-needed getaway to visit her best friend up in New York City. She thought she could turn to her friend for guidance and support, but she was wrong. After moving to New York City, her friend changed. She became mentally and emotionally abusive both to herself and others. My client had a rude awakening when she was left outside in a city she didn't know, while her so-called best friend got high on horse tranquilizers with a complete stranger. After all of that, my client stuck around to see if she was okay, just to find her strutting down her rooftop ledge, threatening her life. She was ready to end the friendship, but realized her friend needed more help and support than she ever did. I never really talk about myself on here, but I think this is a story worth sharing. I was born with a birthmark in the center of my forehead. It looked very similar to a traditional bindi worn in the Hindu culture. I was told all my life by my family what a blessing it is to have this beauty mark because of its meaning, but unfortunately others thought differently. I would get weird looks from random strangers and was bullied at school for most of my childhood. Kids would call me ugly and worthless. No one even wanted to be my friend or sit next to me at lunch. And for what? Just because someone looks a little different or has something unique about them? Back then I really cared about what others thought. I took words to heart, and because of that I lacked confidence for years. And I'm positive I'm not the only one. I wish someone told me this back then, but being unique isn't a bad thing. It only makes you stronger. Embrace it. I get so happy when people of all ages ask me to do their nails. This client is in her late 70s and she told me that she's been doing her own nails her whole life. Since being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, her joints and her hands have been in so much pain that she no longer can do her nails, so she decided to come to me. She told me stories of her past, how she fled to America during World War II, how she built a life from nothing but a few dollars in her pocket. When I finished, she told me that even with all the obstacles in her life, she feels fulfilled. I lived a beautiful life, she said, and I only wish the same for you.
I stopped nail biting after watching this episode of iCarly. So, confession time. I used to bite my nails when I was 8, and every time I saw the white part of my nail grow, I just had the urge to bite it off. But that all changed when I watched this episode of iCarly. In this episode, Carly wanted to get straight A's that semester so bad, but ended up getting a B in one of her classes. However, Sam thought Carly deserved that A and decided to change Carly's grade to an A in the school computer. When Carly found out, she flipped and started biting her nails. Once she said she was a 13-year-old girl with the fingers of a hobo, I was like, I don't want to look like a hobo. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't sound good, and I officially stopped nail biting from then on. Thanks, iCarly.
Story time about how I got a facelift when I was 18 to become a famous Instagram model. And I am a famous Instagram model. Can you guess who I am? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. This is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I grew up in the Kylie Jenner era when she started getting her lips done. Remember that? Kardashians were a Bible to me. I watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians and was totally obsessed with their looks. You see, at the time, I wasn't the prettiest girl. I was really skinny. I had no bum and no boobalas. Once Kylie Jenner started getting her body done, that's when I really started getting FOMO. To be honest, and I know this sounds cliche, but social media made me start hating my face. I would constantly compare myself to Instagram models. That's when I started photoshopping my pictures. It made me feel so much better to post. Then I begged my parents for lip fillers. They finally said yes, and I went ahead and got them. For me, the next logical thing was to look like Kylie Jenner. So I decided my parents to let me get surgery. They finally said yes, but trust me, it took a long time to convince them. We went to a plastic surgeon, and that's when I decided to get a full facelift. I know it sounds severe, but it was so worth it. But I didn't stop just at my face. I even convinced my parents to get my boobalas and my bum done. Part 2 is
being my own boss is so rewarding, but also so is not having to manage other people. Today was the last day of school for my daughter, and I literally cannot believe how fast time goes. Especially being a millennial, I can think back to the time that I was in 4th grade. So to be raising a daughter of my own is just mind-blowing to me. But also, it's so rewarding and such a blessing because I get to pick her up from school if I want to, or my husband can go pick her up, and I get to take her to school every day. And that's because I chose the most rewarding career and have the most amazing husband. My family is literally the perfect puzzle piece. I can already feel how crazy this summer is about to be. Since school was out early, I was like, I'm definitely taking the rest of the day off. Being your own boss and having such a supportive husband literally is such a blessing. Tell me in the comments your favorite thing about nails. I'd love to know.
getting all my plastic surgery at 18, I finally became a famous Instagram model. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. This is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. The healing process, of course, was painful, but it was so worth it to me. Once I saw my body and my face, I felt so much better about myself. But something else was missing. Everyone on Instagram was getting their brows tattooed and lash extensions. So I went ahead and got those things done too. And I started paying back my parents for all the surgeries. So this was my basic beauty routine. I would get a mani-pedi every 2 weeks. I would get my hair colored every single month. I was getting lip fillers every 6 months. Facials every 2 weeks. Personal trainer who I exercise with 5 times a week. And I forgot to mention, I had 100,000 followers on Instagram at this point. So I was getting a lot of brand deals aside from the modeling. That's when I started noticing that Kylie Jenner's butt was looking bigger, so I wanted to get mine bigger. I also wanted to get my hips wider like her too. I even started buying all the designer stuff that Kylie was wearing too. Part 3 is up.
Chelsea is back. She spilled more tea, of course, so stay till the end to hear all the gossip. As for the nails, if you remember from her last appointment, we did a gel-X set on her and I decided to not soak them off and do a fill with the same set. It's completely fine to do this. I personally prefer to not soak off. I filed and blended the remainder of the tip into her natural nail and then just did my basic cuticle prep as usual. I strengthened the remainder of the extension with a hard gel and then went in with a color and design. So for the tea, Chelsea's hubby's ex-wife saw on Facebook through a mutual friend's profile that Chelsea's pregnant. Mind you, his ex always wanted kids and he always came up with some kind of excuse. She frantically starts calling him and shows up at his house like for part 2.
I literally just had the worst effing client ever. This bitch literally, she was so fucking picky. Like, I'ma just show you. Listen, I'ma just keep playing the clip so you can see what I'm talking about.
I just want to make sure you do it right. Did you do lowercase or uppercase? No, I wanted the J there first. Uppercase. Understand that?
Can you relax, please? Okay, so that one's done. You can put that in now.
But I need lotion. I don't know what bad stuff you put it on boards. It's just that no, my hands are dry. I mean, like,
Our fee, it's like $1, but that's okay.
that was gonna be your tip anyway. So there.
She even literally wrote on the receipt. I wish I still had the receipt, but she literally wrote on the receipt, your tip is to do better next time. To do better. Girl, good night.
I just completely got played by the nail salon.
I made an appointment online to get Mani Gel French tip, and it was estimated to be about $50 to $60. Explain to me why I end up paying $170. In what world is a mani $170? Not a mani pedi, just a mani. I walk in and I have an appointment. They already know what I'm getting. I'm getting a gel French tip. Then they tell me I need to do dip, and I'm like, I don't like dip. So they end up doing dip anyways without just letting me pick. And then they're like putting all these masks on me, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, I just needed a simple gel French tip, and I ended up paying $170. Not to mention I showed them an inspo picture. I wanted a skinny French tip. I end up with chunky nails, like chunky French tip. Not at all what I wanted. I could have done a better job at home. I literally walk up to the register and I'm like happy, just trying to be really nice, even though I hate it, but I'm like, it's okay, it's fine. And she's like, okay, that'll be $170. And I was like, in what world did you paint gold on my nails? Like, in what world is a mani $170? I got so played. I'm not confrontational, so I couldn't say a thing. So I paid, and now I spent $170 on literally a mani that I hate. Wow, this sucks.
2 of how I got my boyfriend to cheat on me so that I could break up with him. So I got this girl on Instagram to DM him, and this girl was totally his type. Basically, she looked like me, but with blonde hair. So she sent him a little DM. He wasted no time and he got back to her. That same day, they set up a freaking date. So I told this girl that all she had to do was go out with him. Like, meet him at a restaurant, but that was it. Little did I know that she had a crush on him. And it makes sense now thinking about it because my friend recommended her, and my friend afterward told me that she actually had a crush on him. A few days later, she sends me a picture of him sleeping in her bed, without a shirt on. And she basically tells me everything that happened. So now, I have all this proof. But guess what? I actually got really pissed. It broke my heart because I didn't expect him to do that. And he was totally avoiding all my calls and messages. He finally came over to my house, and that's when I showed him all of the receipts. All the pictures and messages between him and the girl. That's when he told me that she drugged him and forced him into doing it. Of course, I knew that wasn't true. Then he pulls out a ring and asked me to marry him. That's when he got on his knees and started begging. Part 3 is up.
Worst client story time. I was only doing nails for about 2 weeks, but she knew I was a beginner. She told me she was proud of me, so this lady booked a short white square full set. She was about 10 minutes late, $10 late fee. After I was done, she paid me $60. She paid $40 for her nails, $10 late fee, and tipped me $10, my first ever tip. She told me she loved her nails and left my studio. A week later, she messages me telling me she hates her nails and that I need to refund her or she's going to go public, so I said, go ahead. She then posts my full name, Instagram, number, and address on all of her social media platforms explaining that I can't do nails. So obviously I told my older sister, and she decided to put her on blast on live.